Hello, I hope you are doing well. In the first lecture, we have seen that what is a valve, different parts of the valve, what is an actuator, different parts of the actuator, what are the important terminology of the valve, and what are the types of the valve. That was what we have seen in the first lecture. And today, what we are going to see is lecture 2, that is primarily based on the actuator. To see what is an actuator, different types of actuator, its sizing and selection, and what are the different accessories that are used along with the control valve in the actuator so that we achieve fail close, fail open, fail stay put depending upon the customer requirement. So let us start with this lecture.
Let us see the content, introduction, types of actuator, sizing selection, and different accessories as we have discussed previously. First, let us see what is the introduction of the actuator. A control valve actuator is either a fluid or electric powered device that provides the required force to move the stem in the up or down direction. There could be a situation that it could be rotary movement also, but what we are discussing here is mostly linear control valve. So when a signal of 4 to 20 milliampere is sent, the stem moves as per the signal. Let us consider a direct acting actuator where 20 milliampere when sent shall close the valve and 4 milliampere shall open the valve. So based on that, when 8 milliampere is given, the stem is halfway in the valve. In fact, the stem can be at any position based on what the signal has been given, either from the control room or either it can be cascaded from the system itself. There could be a situation where the signal can be pneumatic, that is 3 to 15 psi for a simple pneumatic actuator with a pneumatic positioner, or it can be an electric current, it can be a digital, it can be HART or a Profibus signal, and power source can be pneumatic, air, electric current, or hydraulic. Let us assume a temperature control valve where the signal can come from temperature transmitter rather than the control valve. If the temperature is low than the set point, the transmitter will give the signal and the valve will open, thereby increasing the temperature to reach the set point. While on the other side, if the temperature is higher, the valve will try to close, reduce the flow, and thereby the temperature will reduce and reach the set point. Next slide. We will see different types, as we have seen different types of actuator in the first lecture. We have seen direct acting actuator with a single spring, and here is a direct acting actuator with multiple spring design. The functioning is very similar to the earlier one. The air will enter from the top and shall compress the spring, thereby moving the stem to the bottom side. When the fail condition is there, the spring will move to its original position, thereby the stem moves upward. This configuration is used normally for fail open condition. Fail close. You can see that this is an exact opposite configuration of the direct acting actuator. This one is called as the reverse acting. However, the functioning is same, but it is configured to obtain fail close condition. Here we will see there are two types. Piston actuator. One is air to open and one is air to close. The main reason for this piston actuator is that if the valve require much higher thrust as compared to what a diaphragm valve can provide, this actuator can be used. Primarily used for higher size and higher rating valves. As you can see, configuration is exactly opposite. This piston is on the top side here, and this on the bottom side. Next is the electrical actuator. Here the signal will be given in 4 to 20 milliampere, and the power source is either 110 volt or 230 volt or 450 volt, depending what is available at the site. Since these actuators are actually designed with motors and gears, a linear transfer unit LTU is used to convert the rotary movement to linear movement. The most important parameter we need to consider when we select an electrical actuator is that fail condition is fail last. It means that in the event of the signal or the power source failure, the actuator will stay in the position and the valve will remain in the same position. However, there are few good actuator manufacturers who have designed the actuator with the springs to provide fail-safe condition, so that the valve will either be open fully or closed. For electrical actuator, one more important thing is the enclosure. Since electricity can be a source of fire, the enclosure can be X-proof or intrinsic safe. X-proof means explosion proof, so if there is any spark or anything, the explosion will be contained within the actuator itself. It will not come out, thereby protecting the unit completely. Or it can be intrinsic safe, where the overall energy which is required to create a spark or to create the heat is not there. It means the power which is required to operate is very, very less. Intrinsic safe. On the other hand, the pneumatic air doesn't require such enclosure, since air is used and only weatherproof actuator can suffice this requirement. So there is an air, there is mechanical components, and you can achieve the open and the closed condition, and there is no possibility of any spark. That is why you really don't require an intrinsic safe or an explosion proof actuator. Another thing of the electrical actuator is that they are used when compressor is not available and you require only to operate only few valves, or when the stroke of the valve is very, very high. Next, hydroelectric actuator. Here the required force is generated by piston using electric driven hydraulic pump and spring. Spring can be used to achieve fail-safe, fail-lock position depending upon the configuration or depending upon the customer requirement. Here what we see is extreme high force is required, which cannot be provided by other actuators. That is the reason that you go for electrohydraulic. You might have seen in a lot of earth moving equipment where the piston and cylinder arrangements are there. They are used to generate very high force and very, very good precision also. So that is where the electrohydraulic is used. Also, where if the stroke time is in few seconds, this can be a most suitable choice. Again, this could be either in single acting or double acting. Single acting can be with one side fail and the other side as one side can be achieved by the force from the hydraulic oils, and the other side can be done by the spring. While on the double acting side, it can be hydraulic oil from both the side to achieve whatever positions is required. Next, let us see the sizing and selection of the actuator. A typical actuator will have these three parameters, basically: thrust acting on the plug, packing friction, and the seat loading. Thrust acting will be basically the area of plug, unbalanced or balance or area of the plug into differential pressure. Packing force, this depends on the stem diameter of packing given by the packing vendor, and seating load, which is a circumference of seat into class 4 seat, class 4, class 5, class 6, depending upon this. So there are already seat load calculated by the design engineer, and that can be used. Let us see a simple calculation for this. Here, as you can see, the thrust calculations, we have considered a 2-inch valve with a balanced trim or with an unbalanced trim, or whatever your valve is there. The port diameter is 50 mm, 2-inch delta P, let's assume it as 15 bar, and unbalanced area is 175 mm. This data, probably the port dia and the unbalanced area will be coming from the design engineer. So you simply multiply these two and you get 262, that is the thrust on the plug. Packing 220 Newton, that is for PTFE material, and 15 mm dia. This is coming from the vendor, so you can just ask the vendor and he will give you these details. Class 4 seat load circumference class 4 seat load, which is 8 Newton meter. And this we can use to multiply with the circumference of the port, and we will get this 1256 seat loading. This is much higher because this is the force which is actually required to seat the plug on the seat. So total thrust will be the summation of this plus this plus this. One more thing which I wanted to put is that if you consider an unbalanced, here we have considered an unbalanced area, the thrust is 1739, while if it is a balanced area it could be much lower, because the most important seating load will reduce drastically. Next, selection of the actuator, which depends upon several criteria. The first one is the available power source and the cost. Second is the type of the actuator that you need to be used on the process, based on the process condition. And third, based on the thrust calculated, for small value of thrust we can have a diaphragm type of actuator, or for higher value we will use a piston type of actuator. Now let us see what are the different accessories. They are positioners, position transmitter, air filter regulator, and volume booster. There can be other accessories which can be used depending upon the specific requirement of the customer. I could suggest a flow control valve, a quick exhaust valve, a solenoid valve, etc. Okay, first let us see what is a positioner. It is a device which compares the controlled signal and stem position feedback. Here, this is the stem. On the back side of this, they are connected to the positioner, and this stem position feedback is compared with the controlled signal. If it doesn't match, it will provide, or either it will reduce the airflow that is going to the actuator, thereby so that it will match the feedback and the control signal. It will match, and what you will get is the particular position which is required. As you can see in the figure, compressed air is supplied to the positioner along with the control signal. Compressed air can be 7 bar, 6 bar or 5 bar depending upon what is required and how the actuator is selected. And the control signal is normally 4 to 20 milliampere for electro-pneumatic positioner. The positioner can be pneumatic. It means that it will have the control signal as pneumatic. It can be electro-pneumatic, so combination of electrical and pneumatic, or it can have purely an electrical actuator where the signal will be electrical. In either case, the air supply is a must, because this air supply will go in the actuator. Next is the position transmitter. This can be considered as reverse positioner. It is used for continuous signal proportional to the valve stem position. It can be incorporated in the valve positioner also. However, if the valve feedback link is broken, then the transmitter will provide false signal. So it is ideally suggested that the position transmitter has to be provided separately, so that in case if one fails, the other is there. So at least the control room has the exact signal. Next is the air filter regulator. The incoming air which has been used as power source to operate the actuator must be free from dirt, dust, oil, etc., because they are coming from some compressors. The filter mostly does is to remove all the dirt and oil, and also you can limit the pressure of the air that goes to an actuator. So if the compressor will be designed at much like 10 bar or 8 bar, and as the air comes up to the air filter regulator, you can regulate the pressure of the air so that you get the exact air in the exact pressure of the air inside the actuator. Next is a volume booster. It is used to increase the air flow to the actuator to achieve the required stroke time. Suppose you need the valve to be closed within 2 seconds for a 10-inch valve or an 8-inch valve. With the typical arrangement of an piston actuator, it is not possible. You require a volume booster. This is the easiest and cheaper method, economical method that has been used, so that with these volume boosters, maybe 2 of them, you can simply achieve the required stroke time easily. So we come to the end of this lecture. Let me summarize quickly. What we have seen in this is what are the types of the actuators, such as single acting, double acting, direct acting, reverse acting. Also we understand what is the sizing and the selection of the actuator, what are the different accessories that are used along with the actuator, what is an electrical actuator, what is an electro-hydraulic actuators. We also seen what are some of the functioning of the accessories and how they work in combination to achieve what control that is required by the customer. Thank you.